Hey guys, it's Mrs. Saucetta. I'm here to show you what you missed. If you missed class September 4th, Friday, September 4th, or Tuesday, September 8th, this video will help you complete your assignment. So last class we completed our penny drop lab. And the penny drop lab was very successful, and we collected some data and we did our data analysis questions. And so today what we're going to do is do a lab conclusion. Anytime a scientist does a laboratory experiment, they record all of their information in their science journal, and then they would always do a lab conclusion in their science journal. That way they can refer back to their research, um, so that if they want to do more experiments or if they want to build off that prior experiment, they still have all that information to refer back to. And so this is just a really popular thing to do in science. You're going to do it throughout high school and throughout college for sure. So today you're going to need to go to your September 4th live Zoom. And it says today we will learn about how to create a lab conclusion. Attached you have the lab conclusion self-assessment slides and the lab conclusion question document. So the first thing you're going to do is go to your lab conclusion self-assessment slides. What you'll see here is two already completed lab conclusions. Now your job is to compare these two lab conclusions. It says a good conclusion to a science lab does 4 different things. So a good conclusion should summarize what you found out. You should reflect on your results. That means your data. You should share the lesson. And so sharing, you share so that other people can learn from what you've researched and what you found out. And then you can talk about how can we do maybe a follow-up experiment, or create a new interesting question that's related to the topic. So knowing that those 4 things are required in a good lab report, I want you to explain why conclusion 1 is better than conclusion 2. So you'll read about conclusion 1, and then you'll read conclusion 2, and you'll make sure that they have all 4 of these things, and then explain what conclusion 1 has that's better than conclusion 2. You can do this by clicking Insert New Slide, and then you can type right here. Go ahead and type your explanation, explaining why conclusion 1 is better than conclusion 2. And I'll read them over with you real quickly. So conclusion number 1. The paper towel that held the least amount of water was a paper towel that was folded into 8ths. It held 34.3 milliliters of water. The paper towel that held the most water was a regular paper towel that had nothing done to it. It held 41 milliliters of water. I thought this was interesting because I thought at first the original paper towel would hold the least amount of water because it wasn't modified. I always thought that the more you modify something, the better it gets, but not in this case. One lesson I learned from this lab is that if you're cleaning up at home, don't modify your paper towel because the regular paper towel holds the most water. If you don't use a regular paper towel, you're wasting paper, and wasting paper hurts the environment. And then conclusion 2, we'll compare to each other. One of the things that we learned about our paper towel lab trials was that the paper towel that was folded doesn't absorb as much water as a paper towel that is used in the one flat sheet. This was surprising to me because I thought that anytime you use more layers of paper towel, you could absorb more water. I know that when I'm using paper towel at home, I often have to lay more than one sheet down on top of another in order to clean up a spill. I was pretty sure that folding a paper towel would work just like laying more than one sheet down on top of one another, but that is not true. We tried folding our paper towel a bunch of different ways. We folded the paper towel horizontally and vertically. We also folded the paper towel over multiple times. The greatest number of folds in any one paper towel was 8. So now you're going to reflect why is conclusion 1 better than conclusion 2. So you go down here and you'll explain what makes conclusion 1 better. Now, after you do that, you're going to go over here, and if conclusion 1 summarized their findings, then you would put an X. If it reflected on the surprising results, then you'd put an X. If it explained lessons learned, then you could put an X. If it mentioned a follow-up experiment, put an X. If it didn't, then you just leave it blank, And if you're not sure what that means, or if you're not sure if it had it in there, then you can put a question mark. And you do the same thing for conclusion 2. And after you rate conclusion 1 and conclusion 2, you can go back to your Google Classroom and click on your lab conclusion template. And our lab conclusion is for the penny drop lab. So those other conclusions were example conclusions for another type of lab. This is our lab conclusions about the penny drop lab. So the first thing you need to do is restate the overall purpose of the experiment. And if you can remember the independent and dependent variable, we wrote those on the lab sheet, then include those as well. So what was the purpose? What was that initial question that we were trying to answer in the penny lab? What were the major findings? So you're going to summarize your data. Look at that average. Think about how many drops of water could really fit on that penny. I want you to think back to your hypothesis. Maybe you said that I think 5 drops of water would fit on a penny. So you need to decide whether your hypothesis was supported by the data or if it was refuted, which means it was proved wrong. And then you want to talk about the experiment. How could we improve this experiment? How could we make a new experiment that was even better? And 5, what could be studied after this experiment? What new experiment could continue the study of this topic? And so it gives you an example down here, and then it also gives you a rubric. So you need to make sure you can go through this checklist on yourself. Did you restate the purpose? Did you refer to your data? Did you talk about your hypothesis? Did you suggest improvements for our labs or talk about the mistakes that we may have made? And did you think about extensions? How could we do this lab differently again? And then it would be your turn to write the lab conclusion on the next page. And you go ahead and type it here using these questions here to guide you. It should look overall like a couple paragraphs, okay? It should be in paragraph format, just like our examples are, okay? Paragraph format. If you have any questions or you need any help, you can always join my Zoom, which I have office hours between 2 and 4, so you can join whenever you'd like. You can go to the resources and click on the calendar to schedule your appointment.